Mike, hello everyone. How's it going?
No Astros. Nice to have Astros, man. We're still in it now.
Thank you for coming to this special edition of the Larry Dierker Tuesday night chapter meeting. We normally have our chapter meetings every third Monday, but because of the ALCS, we had to move some things around. So I'd like to thank all of you for showing up, and to thank our guest speaker, Bill Brown, for willing to reschedule with us. Now, of course, we had to reschedule because of the ALCS. What do we think of the ALCS? How are we feeling after the first two games?
We're on the road. We got them right where we want them.
Right where we want them.
They got us right where they want us.
Right. We're on the road. All right. They had their chance, so I'm going to say what I've said all season. I am not quite sure what to think of this team. And after the first two games of the ALCS, I'm not quite sure what to think of this team. So we'll see. But anyway, as long as Tucker makes the trip to Dallas, or his bat anyway, I think we'll be all right. Anyway, all right. So without further ado, we're going to get going. We have kind of again, this is a special night. This is one of those meetings where all of you are going to get involved, whether you know it or not. This is probably going to be the most engaging SABR meeting we've had in a very long time. All right. And you'll see what I'm talking about here pretty soon. All right. And that includes you people online as well. So even Maxwell up in Canada, all of you will be getting involved with the meeting. First of all, I'd like to welcome our newest member of the newest member, Carlos Wright Robinson of Missouri City. I don't know if Carlos is here.
Right there in the middle.
Right there in the middle. Oh, Dave! Welcome.
That's Martian.
Eddie Hill.
Kitty Pitts.
Eddie Hill.
Also tonight, Kobe, one of our newest and youngest chapter members, actually. Kobe, that's a good thing. He brought a friend. As it turns out, a very old friend. Parker Joe Freon from Friendswood. Parker and Kobe have been friends since first grade. So,
or since the 2014 SABR convention.
Or since the 2014 SABR convention? Really? Yeah. Okay, all right. So, welcome, Parker, and hope Mike doesn't run you away with his jokes. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. I'm Joe Thompson, in case you don't know who I am.
There you go.
All right. I forgot. I'm terrible at doing that. Mike always has to remind me.
What's his job?
My job is I'm an international business professor at the University of Houston. No. That is true. But I'm also the president of the SABR chapter, the Larry Dierker SABR chapter. So again, I just kind of like my classes. I just like to get going. David, hello. How you doing, David?
It's doing fine. It's good to be with you all tonight.
Good. All right. And hello to everybody else online. Just like to remind everybody real fast that we had a really good meeting last month. The Locked On Astros podcast guys, Brett Chansey and Eric Heisman was here. They gave a fascinating presentation about what they do. And yeah, if you haven't had a chance to check out their podcast, I would. On YouTube or any other place where you can get their podcast. Those guys, they have so much energy. I don't know where they get all their energy from. They are Astros all the time. So if you haven't had a chance to check out their podcast, you could see them everywhere. Greg gave a fascinating book review of Drellich's book, Winning Fixes Everything. Did it motivate all of you to go out and read the book last month? Not one person will admit to it. All right.
All 20 bucks. Excellent book reviews.
It was an excellent book review. It just kind of confirmed what all of us probably knew already. Dodgers fans, Mariners fans. Anyway, but it motivated me to get a copy of it, and I've read a little bit of it. But then, duty calls. I got to read a page a day, so I'll get to it. Next month, our next meeting is the third Monday in November. It is the week of Thanksgiving. It's November 20th. It's Monday night. So right before everybody wants to get prepared for Thanksgiving and everything, just show up Monday night. And I'm working on the guest. I have a pretty good idea of who the guest is going to be. I have two people in mind. One of those is the SABR chapter president of the Dusty Baker chapter. Okay, who's going to talk to us if exactly that's the way we go. He wants to talk to us about the feelings and emotions of becoming a major league player. He's wrote a new book, and he wants to talk about what you can't see in the box score. This whole idea. He interviewed a lot of players about what it means to be called up. So Zach Ford will either be here on November or maybe at a later time, but I'm leaning towards Zach presenting to us on November 20th. In December the 18th, a old friend is coming home to present. Greg Lucas will be here December the 18th to present to us an update of his old book about the Astros championship, that kind of thing. So he will talk to us. I got confirmation from Greg earlier today. Then, of course, a winter meeting for the Roger Hornsby chapter is going to occur I think it's January 6th. So all of you, if you haven't made plans, please keep in mind SABR 52 is next August in Minneapolis. Hopefully all of you can go. Hopefully Maxwell, you can go, or you can go on your vacation wherever you want to go. But we hope to see a lot of you up there in Minneapolis. Speaking of Minneapolis, where I am at this morning, it was 46 degrees at my house. So we got a little taste of Minneapolis summer this morning. But it felt great. That 46 degrees, considering it's been about 106 for the last 4 months. So that felt pretty good. Our next newsletter is coming out right after the season, whenever that is it. Probably before Thanksgiving, though. Right?
Turkey.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you'll have something to read along with eating your turkey. So if you have something you would run about, I wish all of you want to share a story, a memory. Do you think we have a few more years of this dynasty left for the Astros? Do you think do you really feel good about anything? Do you have a favorite memory, a baseball memory? It doesn't have to be Astros related. Any story you can think of. Scott?
I would just suggest, if anybody wants to write up a recap of the season, we'd love it. I've had this thing together past couple of years at the last minute, and someone else wants to do great.
Yeah.
I've been low.
Highs and lows of the last season.
Well, let's wait again.
Let's wait to be stay tuned.
We're gonna publish it after they finish the season, so.
Yeah.
Whenever they.
Yeah, Scott said we're going to publish it at the end of the season, so just that's something to think about. And some of you, y'all can write, you can tell a story, just any little thing you can think of. Maybe what you want from the Astros for Christmas. I don't know. Some little thing. Maybe a new arm or something like that with pitching rotation. Yeah.
There was a book published many years ago called My Greatest Day of Baseball. And in late 40s, and just a lot of Benjamin had great days. So something for that.
Okay.
Or you don't have to be a grand slam home run. It can be a 2-out fly. Something like that.
Yeah.
Or just terribly again.
Right, simple stuff like that. Yeah, any little thing. Thank you, Tony. Herb, do you want to? Yeah, Herb, our esteemed vice president of the chapter, has an announcement to make regarding the Astros win contest that we had early this season. Before the season started, I asked all of you to send myself and Herb your prediction for Astros wins. Predictions for Space Cowboys wins too? No.
So this was,
I'm gonna turn it over to Herb and let him talk. Herb, go ahead.
all right. Before I start, hopefully I got everybody's submission. So I'm based on what I had in my record. So, the predictions ranged from 89 wins to 103 wins for the Astros. Only one person was below the action. And there were two people, one above the action. So the actual wins was 9. And so Jeffrey Barmeister had 89, Carl Owens had 91, and Bill Brown had 91. The tiebreakers were Jordan Alvarez home run, which he actually had 31. Most people picked way above that. The average prediction was 39. And the other tiebreaker was Kyle Tucker's stolen bases. The average was 33 and he ended up with 30. So I'm assuming the tiebreaker will be between Bill Brown, Carl Owens, and Jeffrey Barmeister because they were only one off on the fence. So Jordan Alvarez home runs. Carl had predicted 33. Jeffrey Barmeister predicted 36. And Bill Brown predicted 32. So Bill's the closest on that. Oh, wow. And on stolen bases, Carl predicted 30, which is the actual amount. Jeffrey Barmeister predicted 26, and Bill was right on the nose at 30. So Brown is our champion. Get right the quiz for next year. It's in Long County. No, do it left wide. I'm gonna pass this around people a little bit. Okay. That was their fault.
All right, yeah, okay. And Bill, I actually forgot that Herb was going to talk about that, so I actually have a gift for you, but I'll bring it next month. So they're not going to be here October 20th to get your gift from me for winning the contest, and it's we'll see how it goes. We'll see if you like it or not. All right. Speaking of Bill Brown, our winner of the contest, Bill is here to talk with us tonight about baseball in the early 1960s. To be precise, 1964. Right? So, again, this is one of those unique chapter meetings where, yes, we have somebody presenting, but all of you are going to be fully engaged. All right? Because most people in this room, I assume, have some memory of 1964. I don't. I was born 7 years later. Okay? But I do know a little bit of history, and I was talking to Brownie before we even started. So even if you weren't born in 1964, and you have some idea of what was going on in America or in baseball in 1964, all of you can participate. So this is for a new project that I'll let Brownie talk about that he's doing. But the point of all this, I kind of look at this as a chapter oral history project to help Brownie with this book. So without further ado, we all know Brownie. Brownie, it's all yours. Thank you. Okay.
Great to see you guys. I need help. Dirk knows because he's written several books. And who else has written books? Of course, Ted. So Ted has written a great book on baseball dynasties. And I was looking at that. It's going to be very helpful. But when I do a book, I need help. So this is not officially a SABR book. And I did buy a couple of those.
all read SABR books, right? So it's my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Bob and Joe, on the SABR books, that the official SABR format for doing books is to have contributions from many people in a chapter, because that's what I've read. So I've gotten the book on the 64 Cardinals, I've gotten the SABR book on the 64 Phillies. Both of them are excellent. They have extensive profiles on all the key players. They have a game by game rundown on the season, anything that your average fan would probably expect or want from something like that. And so this is not that. But what I'm asking for is your memories, or Kobe, if you don't have memories of 64, and Joe, maybe some resources that you have read about 64. And all those would be considered as material for this book. So what is the book about? Well, this is going to be an outline of the book, so you'll have a very specific idea of exactly what this book is about. Yeah. So we're ready. So what is the title going to be? Tal has agreed, he may regret it, to be my editor again for this book, and I'm very, very pleased about that. And that's a difficult job when you're editing me, but I'm going to call it for now, Baseball's Tumultuous Season. Now, why would I put that kind of a title on it? I've written, 15, 20, 30 different title ideas, didn't like any of them. Tal kind of liked this because we were talking about it and I threw out the word tumultuous. And you'll find out about that as we go through this. So chapter 1, Uncertain Times, we actually start November 22nd of 63 with the Kennedy assassination. Why would we start with that when the book is about 64? It's my contention that you really can't write a book about 64 without at least mentioning what happened on this day at 63. Because, for instance, I was a junior. Dirk, were you a junior that year in high school? Senior, okay. It marked you forever. So it's been called in this book that I bought about 64, not about sports, but about the year 1964, as the end of innocence. So I will use that phrase once in this book, and that's going to be it. But I think for many of us, we could identify with that phrase, which this book has in the top, end of innocence, because of the assassination. And I'm from Sedalia, Missouri. So this book is not only about 64 pennant race, but it's about life in 64. So now, and it's fiction, part fiction. But my sister, who's written children's books, she's a lot wiser than I am, has mentioned that I probably should, in the back of the book, clearly label what parts are fiction and what parts. And I agree, because there's not going to be that much fiction, but I am going to put some in there just to kind of hopefully make the story a little more interesting. That's the concept behind using fiction on this. But there will be memories of 64 growing up and those times, and they were extremely unusual times. I think most of us who are older can probably agree on that. Maybe not without some proof, but Sedalia, Missouri's history is going to be in there. Why? Because that's where I grew up. And so I grew up as a Cardinal fan, listening to Harry Carey, Jack Buck on the radio, and that'll be, well established throughout this. So that's chapter 1. It's pretty brief. Chapter 2, snowballs. We start with the Cotton Bowl, January 1st of 63, and this is part of the fiction. I'm writing that somebody knocks on my front door halftime of the Cotton Bowl game, says let's go have a snowball fight. That's what we did then. So talk about our family in Sedalia. Then the Mets were moving into Shea Stadium that year. I had gone to Mickey Owens baseball school, not that year, but a few years earlier. And Mickey Owen was the catcher who had the famous, he missed strike 3 in the World Series 1941, cost his team the game, and his team fell behind 3-1 in that World Series. So Mickey Owen is forever known as the catcher who missed, what could have been the last pitch of the game. And led to a 3-run rally. And he had a baseball school in Miller, Missouri, which is down in the southwestern part of it. And I went to that school one summer and talked about that a little bit. Mickey was there. Dinner conversation is going to be our family, what we talked about at dinner. My dad was kind of a character. He had a very large vocabulary. He would throw these phrases out and none of us could understand what in the world he was talking about. And then down through the years, I've learned that he did that, at work and in his legal groups. And so there are Bill Brownisms in Sedalia from my dad, and these have lived on down through these. I had to have my sister send me a list of because I could. My visit to KRO was our little 1,000-watt radio station there. That's where I got my start, and I would hang out there and try to learn what I could about broadcasting and convince them to put me on the air. I have invented a bank robbery story and put our family in this bank robbery story as part fiction because, and what's difficult here is, you're writing about 64. The end of it's going to be, right after Game 7 of the World Series this year. You're going to wrap it up pretty quickly. Kind of buying some time here in the first 3 months of the season. There's not much going on in baseball. So this is a way to do some of that and put a little drama in. And so I'm leaving this bank robbery with the fictional account that I'm giving that we're all down on the floor and we're told not to look at the robber. And I see an identifying mark on his neck, and that's all I see. In every other way, he's an average guy, so it wouldn't be identifiable, but I'm the only one who sees this mark on his neck, and then we will pick it up in about 3 chapters later. So trying to add a little suspense to it. Then chapter 3, the heart of the Midwest, talking about the Missouri embarrassment. This was the Kansas City A's. They were awful. They were called by many people the farm system the Yankees, farm club the Yankees. Many of their best players wound up with the Yankees through bad trades and other deals, cash deals, because Charlie Finley was cheap and needed money. So we go into that a little bit. Then we've got some Missouri history, and thing that I want to try to avoid here is a history dump. So, which is boring and it's telling you about, the early days of Missouri and statehood and what it was known for, that sort of thing. So I tried to just invent some conversations to bring it out there. So we're at the library, some of us for our classwork on American history. And there's a docent at the library lecturing us about Missouri history. We have some questions. Hopefully that breaks it up a little bit better than just a history dump. Then we get into the story of John Lamy. So any of you guys who lived in 64 and remember this, any of you have any memories of a bomb shelter underground? You do? Yes. I would be interested, if you feel predisposed to email me at bbastro@aol.com, because I'm wanting to collect some of those stories about bomb shelters too. Yeah, one wants.
There was a movie made. I think we got his name, but the whole family lived in a bomb shelter, and the guy didn't realize that there was a whole bunch of stuff going on outside in the real world because they're afraid of nuclear holocaust and all this stuff. The whole movie, they're in this bomb shelter until this guy gets out. I don't know how he got out, but got out. A teenager. And he started in Georgia and jumped. Blast from the Past. That's the name of the movie. Yeah. So you ought to watch that, and you can get some stuff out of that from it.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Brendan Fraser. Okay. Blast from the Past. Okay. So the only one I've been able
to get some background.
Okay.
It has an Academy Award winner. The father was an Academy Award winner. What's that?
the father in that movie,
You know,
he was with, Natalie Wood, with Mrs. Walken. Yes, Christopher Walken.
Okay.
Alicia Silverstone. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a movie. You gotta get some. Work from them.
Yeah. Europe, you didn't have bomb shelters in California, did you?
No, but we heard about
Okay,
them.
yeah. So I was always hearing about these, but then I started realizing that I had never actually seen one. And I hadn't heard of any specific families having one, but then I heard of the Lamies. And so I called Jim Lamy, who was in my class. He said, yeah. So our dad, John, and Dr. John Lamy, and Dr. John Lamy was in the Bataan Death March. He was in Corregidor in the Philippines. He was taken prisoner. He was put in the Bataan Death March, and then they were taken to Japan. I think they marched 65 miles. And they were told, if you drop on the ground, we're going to shoot you. So I think 500 to 600 Americans were shot during that Bataan Death March. So then his captors found out he was a doctor, and he tended to the troops. He was the doctor for the troops there. And I heard one story, and I know we're getting far afield from baseball, but I have a tendency to get interested in things and go down rabbit holes. Probably a lot of people aren't interested in this. So they found a cat in their camp, and somebody said, we ought to eat this cat, because they were starving. And he looked at the cat and he said, well, the cat's pregnant. So let's wait until the cat has babies and we'll have more cats to eat. That showed you how desperate that situation. So hearing that and hearing that he was a prisoner for 4 years makes it easier to understand why he would want a bomb shelter in his house when he got back to Missouri. So he punched out the part of the wall, front wall of his basement, and built. And John Lamy, is the older son, said it was about 10 feet by 25 feet. Said he never put any food or anything in it. It was just an empty room, but it was there. So how many more of those were there? I don't know. But people were doing that in those days. So it's part of the story that I want to tell about the heightened tensions in the world at that time. You know, we're sitting here now in 2023, and I don't know that it's that much different now than it was then. But anyways, and then we had a trip to Washington, D.C., and get into this more later, but we went on a family vacation there and saw the site. And my dad knew the Missouri U.S. Senator Stuart Symington, who was a Democrat. And he was a dark horse when they went to the convention in 1960 when Kennedy won. And for those of you into politics, you probably remember that was kind of the last brokered convention. When all these delegates were being lobbied, you know, so Bobby Kennedy was on the floor of the convention, going to different delegate groups, different states, trying to talk them into voting for his brother. And, you know, they do trade-offs. If you give me the votes, we'll give you, you know, an Air Force base or whatever. I said, put so-and-so on in the administration, give him a cabinet post, something like that. So it was a pretty different time in a lot of it, including politically then, and went to meet Senator Symington, met him in his office, and he gave us tickets to the ball game that night. And it was 61. So it was the two expansion teams, the Senators and the Angels. And the only thing I can remember about that was we went, you know, I was insistent on going early for batting practice and all that. Parents were rolling their eyes. My sister just didn't want to be there. But I remember seeing two guys playing catch on the field during batting practice. One guy was absolutely huge, and that was Ted Kluszewski. And the other guy he was throwing to,
Steve Bilko?
Who?
Steve Bilko?
No.
Albert Pearson?
Oh, wow. The littlest agent. So he was about Altuve's size.
Yeah.
Yeah. So That's all I remember. I don't remember anything about the game. I just remember those two guys. And so these are the memories that we carry forward from our childhood, and we all have them. We all have different memories like that. So chapter 4. Now we get into St. Louis baseball. I know it's taken a while to get here, but these first chapters are rather short. And we're starting to follow the Cardinals in spring training, a brief history of them. When Anheuser-Busch bought the team, which was 53. We go into Johnny King was the manager, Bing Devine was the general manager, Gussie Busch, the owner, didn't know much about baseball, but he was a sportsman, and like all owners, he wanted to win immediately, if not sooner. Then we had Kurt Flood, who was coming back. Musial had retired after 63, so they were faced with replacing him in the outfield, and Flood was the only real set outfielder coming into camp. They had some pretty good candidates, but they weren't sure who was going to take over there. And then the infield, they had spectacular infield. They had Bill White at first base, Kenny Boyer at third, who wound up being the MVP of the league that year. And Dick Rowe.
Who really had here?
That was really good. Broadcasters, Harry Carey, Jack Buck. I grew up listening to them every night pretty much. And then in this chapter also, we go into the teams that were considered to be contenders as of spring training. So you had Dodgers, who had swept the Yankees in 4 games in the 63 World Series. Koufax was MVP and Cy Young winner that year. They could touch him in the series, either won 2 series games. The Phillies were considered to be a good team coming into that year. The Reds were, Giants, and in the American League, I'm mentioning the Yankees here as the only American League club because they're going to be the team in the World Series, and you're not going to hear much about the American League for the rest of this book until the World Series. So that's chapter 4. Cardinals get off to a sluggish start in chapter 5. They had various problems on the team. They weren't doing very well in the standings. Other teams were looking stronger at that point. The Phillies did get off to a very good start. Brief mention of the Kentucky Derby. We had a fire in the kitchen at our house. You know, just various things. We're trying to mix it up a little bit so it's not all this. Chapter 6. This is about listening to games on the radio at night, which we all pretty much did, I think. And summer night, other things we did for entertainment. We had tornadoes in the Midwest, so we were always concerned with that situation, how to prepare for that. My dad's sayings I told you about, different stories about our family. Now, June 15th was the date of the Lou Brock trip. And this is what really made the Cardinals take off. Because they had not found an answer to who was going to replace Musial. And they decided they wanted speed on the club. The Cubs really thought, I think, from what I've read, that Brock was a power hitter. And he was having problems providing power at Wrigley Field. The Twins, just being a young player, hadn't really, picked up knowledge of how to hit for power at that point. Cubs really were not emphasizing speed with him at all. The Cardinals saw him as the guy who could really be a stolen base instigator for them and really help spark their offense. So they made a famous trade, Brock for Ernie Broglio. The Cardinals had very good depth in pitching, so they weren't too worried about Broglio was a good pitcher.
Up to that point.
Yeah, up to that point. It's very key. Mention it here. Okay, so then chapter 7. July fortunes, the Redbirds. Now we got the bank robber from before. We're gonna catch up with him. What I'm going to have happen, I think, is that I'm on a tour of Whiteman Air Force Base, which was 20 miles from Sedalia, and I see this guy in the base commissary, and he's the guy who robbed the bank. So, yeah. August in baseball with the pennant races, daily drama. We had a foreign exchange student from France who came to live with us my senior year in high school. He moved into my bedroom. We became, like brothers. Our brother I never had. Adjustment period with him moving into our family. A little bit about that. Then chapter 8, September drama, pennant races all the time. And as you'll recall, the Phillies were ahead by 6.5 games with 12 to play. They lost 10 in a row.
So you're saying the Astros have a chance?
Yeah, there's always a chance. There's always.
And the other two teams, when the Cardinals won, I think the Reds and the Phillies were only one game out.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. So they went to the last day, and this is kind of what started me for this whole idea
Right.
of this book, because I was thinking about, okay, we got the Astros, Rangers, we got the Mariners, we can have a three-way tie. And so, when's the last time that happened? And I thought, well, maybe 64, and sure enough. And I don't think I'm gonna put this, well, I might put this in there, but I've read this story. Yep.
So the American League had a horse race too. Red Sox, Detroit Tigers, Devil Angels, like they're right on the white.
Okay. I haven't really checked into that yet, but I'm, okay.
7, there were 4, right?
Yeah.
Red Sox, White Sox, Tigers, and Twins.
Right.
All in one game.
Yeah, the Red Sox won.
Yeah. Charles.
Okay, there you go.
Deal.
That's good. So the Cardinals captured the pennant on the last day. And I don't know if the story's true or not, but I've run across the story years ago that Pete Rose said that he came to the ballpark on the final day of the season. Reds obviously needed to win. He's walking in the ballpark. He sees his car with a trailer attached to it. And he knows whose car it is. It's his team starting pitcher that day. So he's packed up, ready to go. John Thesaurus is, well, what's he thinking? He's our starting pitcher. He's packed up and ready to go out of town. Anyway, so I knew then we were in some trouble. Yeah, he was. So Cardinals captured the pennant on last day. And the World Series goes 7 games. Boyer hits a grand slam to win one of the games 4-3. And so here's, I was just telling Ted this today, but I'm very excited because tomorrow I'm going to call Bobby Richardson and do an interview with him. And this just happened today. It just came out of the blue today. And so I talked with him briefly to set it up for a while. But to get his perspective from the opponent's standpoint on the Cardinals. And I heard 2 podcasts with him today, and he just, was great in explaining what all happened to the Yankees that year. But Kubek was injured. So that was one factor for the Yankees. Whitey Ford was pretty much at the end of the line. So this was really the end of the Yankee dynasty. They were sold to CBS. CBS didn't do much financially with improving the team. They had older players, Mantle was old at that point, broken down. So there were some other guys. Elston Howard, I think, was 35. And they just cratered it after that.
I think Yogi got fired after the World Series because they lost him. Like that.
So here's the story.
Johnny Key.
Johnny King. So
Yeah.
this is part of the whole tumultuous thing for me, is that they're coming down the stretch here, and in September, according to this book that David Halberstam wrote, October of 1964, Gussie Busch was in St. Louis, and he knew the owner of the Brown Derby restaurant, Hollywood, somewhere in LA. Now, he was at Brown Derby one night talking to this guy who was a very good baseball fan. And the guy says, you ought to hire DeRocher to be your manager. He'd be great for you guys. So that gave Gussie Busch. So Gussie Busch had a conversation with DeRocher. And apparently, according to this book, they had a handshake agreement that DeRocher was going to be the manager in 65. Because at that point, the Cardinals didn't look like we're going to go to the World Series, right? They're, 6.5 out, 12 to play. And so he was thinking ahead. Well, apparently some of this got back to Johnny Keane. At least he heard that, hey, they're looking around to replace you. And so he didn't forget that, of course. Yeah. And then you had Berra's situation. The Yankees, he was on thin ice. And so then I don't know if it was the day after the World Series or a couple days after, but now the Cardinals, of course, have to change their plans to replace Johnny Keane. He's just won the World Series. So they call a press conference to announce that he's going to sign this new 3-year contract, and Johnny Keane comes in the room, puts a letter down in front of Bush of resignation. And then Yogi gets fired. And Johnny Keane gets hired to manage the Yankees.
Yogi went in, get an extension on his contract. He thought he'd come back.
So that's what I was listening to this podcast today with Bobby Richards. And he said, well, we were on the plane coming back to New York after game 7. And I was sitting by my wife, and Yogi came back and he said, do you mind if I sit down? I've got a couple things to tell you. I said, oh, fine. He said, well, I'm going to go in and talk to the Yankees tomorrow, and I'm going to ask them for a 2-year contract. They said, okay. And Bobby Richardson's wife said, yeah, you know, you should have won this World Series if my husband hadn't made that error. So that didn't work out either, because the Yankees have been looking around the whole time in September for his replacement too. And that's why I just felt it was really tumultuous, as well as being the end of the Yankee era and just the whole world situation, you know, that year, because of course Vietnam was escalating, as we all know. There were some other things in the mix there too. I think I have one more chapter on here. Yeah, so there you have it. Ken Boyer's MVP. So,
I just wanted to point out, I looked up Mickey Mantle and it's broken down. He hit 303 with 35 homers and 111 RBIs.
65. Oh, that year.
64.
Yeah, that year he did.
Then he went.
Yeah. Right after that.
Never hit over 30 homers.
Yeah.
But the story is when Boyer hit that grand slam and Al Downing shook off Elston House, and that Howard put down 1. Downing wanted to throw a changeup. He threw a changeup. At that point in his career, Ken Boyer was a great off speaker. That result was a grand slam. So if he hadn't shook him off.
Yeah.
Well, if he threw that to Dierker.
Yeah, Al Downing. Well, okay, 64, 10 years later.
By then, his changeup was probably his fastball. Anybody have any suggestions? Tony?
Well, 64, you had 3 TV networks.
Yeah.
There was like cable.
Yes.
They made all black and white, so color. You had on television, maybe 80 people with it. Private eyes, so we
There was that year.
January
64.
yeah.
Yep.
February 9th.
Yeah.
That's so.
It's in there too. Yeah. That Sullivan show, all that stuff. I'm going to briefly drive by and mention it.
Was the Eagles known in Missouri? That seemed more like.
We're not known in Missouri. A lot of things weren't known in Missouri. They were known in New York and LA. They usually hadn't reached Missouri yet.
68, you probably figured.
Yeah, maybe about 68. Yeah, so color TV was the next year, 65.
Bill, what was the racial situation in Missouri? Was it a lot of segregation? Were there, you know, white only, black only stuff, or was that even present in Missouri? Because I know it's like the kind of a borderline state.
Yeah, Missouri was considered a border state. And I was reading about that, and in Halberstam's book, October 1964, he really went into the racial aspect of Major League Baseball at that time. And he went very deep into it. And he talked about the Cardinals were at the forefront of having black players in the major leagues. Yankees were on the other end. So the Cardinals, Kurt Flood, Bill White, Bob Gibson, had several prominent players. Yankees had Elston Howard.
It was also Boston's first flight.
He was Boston's first.
No, that's not.
I don't know.
That's somebody.
Lots of green. Yeah.
What year was that?
So to answer your question, I remember in high school, my dad was the attorney for the school board. When we were integrating at that, so it took a while.
10 years after
We had separate schools, but Hubbard, anybody who went to Hubbard had the right to come to Smith Cotton if they wanted to. So what we had was some athletes who came over, but not very many other people at that time. I don't know how long it took after I got out of school, but it was not moving very quick. Yeah,
What would Gambler's basically sell?
I don't have that for you right now.
The minimum in 1967 was 6,000.
Oh.
The average was about 19,000. So 3 years later, the average was about 19,000.
Still 6,000 for a rookie in the early 70s. I think only Bates was the highest paid player back then, $105,000.
Yep.
$105,000.
I've got that in there. Yep.
Brownie, I have a question.
Yes.
Talked about this already. Jim Brosnan and Jim Dalton, they wrote these books about what happened every day of the season.
Yeah.
You know, Brosnan was the last season. So the question I have is kind of using that as a background or just kind of a model. What type of conversations do you think are going on that you can include that were going on in the clubhouse?
Yeah.
During 1964 that you can include in this historical.
Well, and I wouldn't be good at recreating those.
Well, what do you think? What kind of comments? Nuclear war, you know.
Well, you got an expert here that probably knows.
Yeah, Dirk might have some recollections of what kind of conversations there were.
Yeah, I don't know what the conversations were, but I would guess that they weren't about politics.
Yeah.
Probably more about girls,
Okay.
but I do have some personal recollections because I got called up at the end of '64 and pitched my first game against the Giants, who were one of the teams in contention. Were there 4 or 5 teams in contention?
Giants, the Giants, Phillies, the Cardinals, the Reds, yeah, those were the things.
So I didn't think about this at the time, but later on in my career, I heard about teams getting upset with non-contending teams pitching their September call-ups against teams they were contending with.
Yeah.
So they thought that the teams down in the standings should put their very best effort towards winning against contending teams, which is what I think they should.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, they pitched me anyway against the Giants, and we lost, but it was 2-0, so it wasn't really my fault or anybody else's. But then 5 years later, not 5 years to the day, but maybe that was September 22nd. I think it was about the 12th or something. By that time, I was the ace of the staff, and I was pitching against the Braves in Atlanta, and I was very much the one that you wanted in that pennant race because the Braves were 2.5 games ahead of us. There were 3 other teams between us. There were 5 teams. Everybody but the Padres was still in the race at that juncture of mid-September. And I was pitching against Phil Necro. So that game was also a low-scoring game. It ended up, he came out after 11 innings. I came out after 12. And in the top of the 12, Jimmy Wynn pinch hit for me and got on base. And he scored, and we scored 2 runs. So that was probably the best game I ever pitched. I was pinch hit for us, so I was up in the locker room thinking, well, this is going to be my 20th win. Fred Gladden came in and they scored 3.
Oh.
So we lost that game, and the Braves lost very few games after that. It's the closest thing I've ever seen to a turning point And there probably have been a lot more, but I was so close to
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Because we didn't win many games after that.
Okay,
And to go that far and think you're gonna win and then lose
yeah,
was a very emotional feeling for us and for them
right.
in different
Is
directions.
this in the dome, Dirk?
That was in Atlanta.
Atlanta.
What year?
69.
Well, 69.
That was 69.
year That we were, it was the first time we'd ever been in convention.
But didn't you later win your 20th that year?
Yeah, next start.
Okay,
They said, well, we can move you back a day. And I said, no, I can go. That's why I came, pitched 12 innings and came back on the 4th day.
Well, the kids are over 300 innings.
Wow. Bill, it might have been mentioned that Civil Rights Act gets enacted July.
yes,
You
yes.
got to put Flood and Jason.
Yeah. Yep, that's right. That's right. And that was, if you want to get into the political thing, LBJ, of course, that was his, Great Society. He was pushing that. So there was an awful lot going on.
And the war.
And the war. That was the year the war really got ramped up. Because I think the book I read.
Up about 66 or 67.
That was the first
Well-
ramp up in 64.
Well, I think there were 15,000 US troops in Vietnam in 63. So it got ramped up quite a bit in 64. I couldn't give you a number.
They called them advisors.
Yeah.
They did away with the student draft departments. That's when they're brother. That's when I got that.
That's when they got you, huh?
What?
Mhm.
That was 69. I don't remember exactly. I know what hurt. I remember about 64, that's the year I started college and I played some fraternity. We had the only color TV on campus.
Yeah, I believe it.
I think the UT football team was awfully good. Carol Royal. I don't know how many black players they had.
True. Yeah, I
I
couldn't
don't
tell you.
think they had any, because Jerry Levias played, he graduated in 64, we went to the Carlton Pollard Hebert game. There were 3 NFL players in Beaumont for each team, Jerry Levias, Bubba Smith, I can't remember all of them. Levias took Preston Jr. And Levias, first black player in the South.
Yeah, and when Texas won in 63,
Started in 63.
Texas won it all in 63, they were all white.
Yeah, there weren't any white players in the Southwest Conference in 64.
Okay.
In fact, in the Beaumont Independent School District, we were still segregated and they integrated the next year. If they had done it a year earlier, I might have got to play against us.
That would have been fun.
He and I got to talk about that at one time up in New York. I think he would have crushed.
Yeah. We've all been to a lot of pancake breakfasts and that might have been one of them. But yeah,
Well, you see, I was raised in Detroit, it's like a little Tiger fan, pretty hard and all that, but.
Yeah.
When the Yankees came to town, men would wear the ties, and women would dress up. The Yankees came to town, motions and the great fans, but when the Yankees came to town, it's a big time.
Yeah.
When the Yankees.
oh, it was.
They was ties for men and dress for women.
Yeah,
My goodness.
yeah.
What about the Beatles?
Beatles will be mentioned. Yes.
They had like top 5 in Billboard. They had the top 5 songs at one time. The
Yep.
Sullivan Show.
At Sullivan Show, yes.
They played Shea Stadium that year, 64.
65.
They played
Okay.
Chavez Ravine. 55.
Did they? Okay.
Either there or.
Well, tell me overall, what do you guys think? What shouldn't be in this? What is missing from this? Any suggestions?
And Martin Luther King around in this time.
Yeah.
He's starting. He got killed.
I would think
That was me.
Yeah.
We get your email address, Bill.
Yeah, bbastro
So
at AOL.com.
Bill, Johnny Keane had a lot of ties to Houston first with the Bronx and died here.
Right.
I would run the church out on
Got quite a bit on it. Yeah. And he'd been with the Cardinals for, 30 some odd years, I think.
But you had a lot of racial stuff going on then. I can't remember all of Rosa Parks. I can't remember exactly. There's Rogers, college in Arkansas, and ornithologist.
So let me ask you guys, just in general, if you're reading a book like this, that's a baseball book, how tolerant or willing are you to read about things other than baseball? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's,
it's gonna be 60 years next year, so.
it's probably good. Making stuff with the space race kind of tie into Astro.
Yeah.
That was obviously before my time, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But, that was.
Let's talk about a tumultuous time. It was also a time of transition for many of us who grew up in rural America, where we were auditory fans listening to the radio, and we were transitioning to a visual media. And I think that was so impactful that sometimes we forget that period of time, that era, and how we started becoming fans of the visual arts.
Very much so. Very much so.
Was there still the game of the week?
Yes. Yes, game of the week. It was, I think it was Dizzy and
Galley for a long
Pee Wee, and
Yes.
yeah, Pee Wee was on there.
Good.
Buddy Blattner for a while. I don't know. He might have been on another network. Joe.
Came on after Gert Galley, drove the ratings down in front of that.
Yeah,
Cause they got the Diz humor back with Joe Garagiola.
yeah,
One thing about 64, that would be the year that the dome was being constructed
yeah,
for them to open it.
yeah.
Not right.
And the Gateway Arch also was being constructed. St. Louis.
What was?
Gateway Arch in St. Louis
Yeah.
was under construction that year. And I was trying to do something with Gateway in the title and just nothing.
You got 500 pages on it.
Problem, yeah. Or,
180. I grew up in Memphis at that time. He just moved to Memphis at 63.
Jimmy too.
Yeah, and what I recall is they had TV baseball except for Saturday and Sunday. You had Sunday, Saturday, and we had Cardinal games on Sunday. And but it was only if I think they were at home. Either at home or away, so we didn't have it every Sunday.
Okay,
But primarily we listened to, like you did, we listened to Harry Carey's Check Buck. And I was a Yankee fan, so I had nothing to really listen to.
well, okay, so of the guys, or maybe ladies who listen to Harry Carey and Jack Buck, I'd like your impressions of those two guys.
Holy cow.
Well, crazy. If Will Ferrell does that, Harry Carey efforts.
What was your impression? Because if you were listening, was it before he got completely nuts, or was he always that way?
No, he was good. He was,
Yeah.
he was good at 64. 64 was a good year for Harry.
It kind of came later, he turned on, he's like a clown.
Yeah.
More, not the baseball person.
Yeah, and so, there's a whole generation of people who only think of him as that, right? But no, he was, I always liked Jack more than Harry, but I was very much in the minority of my buddies. Almost every other guy I knew liked Harry more than Jack, because Harry could build drama like nobody's business. But then I took my transistor to a game one time, and we were 200 miles from Busch Stadium. We didn't go there very much. And I'm listening to this game that I'm watching. No. There's a hot spiced Boyer. Well, Boyer's standing here like that.
The left center fielder's on his horse, he can't afford it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, yeah. But I have to admit, on the radio, he was magic.
Watch a good game on the
Well, for you, I think that's gonna resonate when you talk about the broadcasters that really appealed,
Yeah,
made a difference for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Heard before you saw them.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, I think.
yeah. I
Well,
wanna get into that.
If I was broadcasting with Milo on radio, and he would have somebody on his horse running into the gap, it could be Mike Collins. Oh, it's a routine catch. And so I get letters from people saying, I really like you and Milo, and that's why I listen to the radio while I'm watching TV. And I think, what's that? I suppose if they know that was an average catch, good people think I'm stupid.
one thing about 1964, I grew up in Beaumont. And I think it depended on what part of the country you grew up in when you got your news. We used to get the Academy Award-winning movie of 1962. It would come to Beaumont 1963. I mean, but today everything's instantaneous.
Yeah.
But back then, you had to wait for a lot of the news. It just didn't come, and it comes away, and you would get it a year and a half later.
That's right.
But if you lived in New York or LA or the news centers, Houston, I don't think got it so much because Houston was that big hit. But if you lived on the East Coast or the West Coast, you got stuff a lot quicker.
That is, that's a possible theme. It's not exactly that, but that's a corollary. I'm reading a book on LBJ now and it's expansive.
Yeah.
And a big part of it in one chapter is the transition between radio and TV. Okay. And it was around the Kennedy shooting because people were seeing Jack Ruby shoot this guy on live TV.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah, they was.
Very good
And
point.
so a lot of the news and the stories, people were seeing things where they were used to hearing it on the radio, and the emotional impact, personal, the way that you process things when you see it is different than if you just hear it. And so the baseball's in that same transition with the radio. They weren't doing much TV, but even if they weren't, you could say that years later, this would have made a big splash.
True.
Something like that.
Yeah.
To that whole audio versus the visual, which we've heard a couple of times now, I would also add that was the very beginning of the reporters in Vietnam filming what was going on. That's true. They would actually put those films on an overnight flight and send them back to New York. So I was 10 at the time, right? I'd see Walter Cronkite and he would be showing these films, these horrific films that's never ever been shown before because it was never thought to, be appropriate. What started to happen in 64, much worse than the later in the 60s, but the same theme is you're going from people talking about stuff to actually seeing it, almost live.
Yeah, good point.
I remember in school, they always made a big emphasis on the Nixon versus Kennedy debate, saying people who listen to the radio almost always favored Nixon, but when they see them talking, they'd say Nixon was like, picture looking, and JFK was so charismatic.
Right.
Sweating.
Yeah, sweating, didn't have a good makeup artist. Yeah.
Kennedy was young and handsome.
Right.
Well, for those of us who live in Houston, we have a phenomenon. If you subscribe to the Chronicle, you can get yesterday's news tomorrow. 2 days later.
Without the perspective of having the other day. Thanks for doing it, right.
100%. Yeah, nice. There were only 3 channels in, and I'm not sure we had but 2 in Beaumont. I know ABC came in and I watched all of Leave It to Beaver on reruns because we didn't have that chat. We didn't have ABC. I was a kid. And we didn't even get a TV in 1958.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We used to watch the test patterns.
I can remember seeing.
That was a big deal. Watch the test patterns. Indians. Oh, boy. But Houston had all 3 channels.
Yeah.
I remember seeing reruns of the Anchorman doing phones with tails on them, and they were smoking cigarettes. Telling the assassination of Kennedy or something, or some big event like that. And we're going tomorrow.
Yeah.
An hour show with 2 packs of cigarettes.
One of my memories during that time, I was a Yankee fan, I loved Mel Allen. And one of the things he would do after every broadcast, he had this little box behind him. He'd open it up and bring out a cool Valentine. And he would drink it on the air. And I said, I gotta have a Valentine for my first beer. Then they fired him. Oh, boy.
Well, thank you guys for your thoughts. Feel free to email me if you have any particular recollections that you think should be considered. Appreciate that.
What was kind of movie that year, by the way?
I don't know that I've seen it.
I was just here about shrink, but giant.
So, yeah. It's gonna be really expensive though. I think our plan award.
I think that was Dr. Strange.
What? Well, I'll check into that though, because that should be in here. Yeah.
We'll, Slim Pickens, third time.
That's right.
Sidney Poitier wins the first black to win an acting award.
I did read that.
Academy.
Yeah.
Was that for Lilies in the Field?
Yep. Yep. And Supremes were big.
Ford Mustang debut season.
Ford Mustang. Okay.
Yeah.
They had electric cars in 64.
So in this Bobby Richardson podcast I listened to, I'm trying to remember what he said about he got the World Series MVP when they lost. I think he's 1962. I think he was, I don't know if he's still the only one.
1960.
1960.
That's when Cuba
Yeah, because, right, because he said he ran into Elroy Face at some function years later. And at this point, Richardson was the first guy to be on a losing team and win the series MVP. And so Face, still the only one, okay. So Face saw him at this function and Face had won 3 games. Really, and I said, "What is it? You still driving my Corvette?" Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, Brownie, thank you very much. Wow, that was almost an hour. Was it really? Yeah, almost an hour. I was not worried about that. All right, thank you all. Very engaging presentation. Yeah, John. Do you have a question?
No.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. All right. Speaking of John Lloyd, though, John Lloyd won the trivia contest last month, and it's about time we have a trivia contest. So, are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Okay, so John,
Pass it out.
pass it out and come up here and read the questions. And
You're gonna know every one of them.
That's the thing.
and those of you online, I created a presentation, and here are the questions.
Yeah.
Well, like Bill was talking about, was good internship. Good stuff. Looking forward to imparting something to you.
Sure it is.
Yeah. Okay, I designed this so Mike McCroskey would win. So.
We'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah. Okay. Number 1.
Everybody online, are you ready?
Has everyone got the sheet? Okay, over the last 50 plus years, there have been several repeat winners of the World Series from the American League. Who were the last repeat World Series champs from the Nest? How fast do you want me to go on the questions?
Up to you. A minute.
Repeat winners, meaning.
How did-
Back to back.
I know you can answer these in about 20 seconds, John, but you got to give people a little time.
Yeah, I know, but Mike can too, and he's left the room, so I guess he's letting everyone else.
Mike will catch that.
They will? Okay.
Mike will catch that.
Bill? I know you can do it. Who is the Chicago Cubs player? You want me to wait for Mike to get in?
No, you got it. Mike will catch it.
What? I designed this for you to win it.
You got it, Mike.
I'm not
The theme is for you to win the game.
You have teams in this now.
Okay, number 2. Who is the Chicago Cubs player who won Rookie of the Year and the Gold Glove in 1962? But only played one more season.
Yeah. Perfect question.
Don't holler at it, yes,
He might, I don't think so. It's there, you know, TM.
Sure.
Okay, number 3, what is Dusty Baker's first name?
Dustin.
World Series champion 2 years in a row, manager Dusty Baker.
Hopefully, respectively. Yes. Okay, who did Dusty Baker play for in his last season?
Whoa. Did you get number 5?
Yeah, I designed that for you too, Larry.
He's struggling.
I actually got 2 questions in for Larry and you. Okay. Yeah, or actually. Number 5, who, 2 batters, did Larry Dierker strike out in the first inning of his first major league start on his 18th birthday?
You can't read that second.
You can't read the second. Oh, I got it.
Do your own work.
We're on the
Yeah.
same team.
Okay, number 6. Bill Brown's first full-time Major League Baseball broadcasting play-by-play announcer position was with which team? Number 7. First catcher in Major League Baseball to hit 20 home runs in a season. And he was considered to be the greatest catcher in the National League prior to Johnny Bench. He also had like a 300 batting average lifetime over like 20 seasons. Number 8, did Ty Cobb ever bat below 300 in a season? Number 9, what was the last year of 2 All-Star games? Or they played 2 All-Star games this season. Number 10, longtime 17-year pitcher in the 40s and 50s with the nickname Fire. He pitched for the Tigers, Yankees, Browns, White Sox, and Athletics. Pitched almost 3,000 innings. Number 11, what Major League Baseball team did Moonlight Graham play for? Who were the current and eventual 5 Cy Young Award winners on the 2014 Detroit Tigers staff? No one. Give you a little bit of time on that one. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 13, what was Boog Powell, not the A's Boot Powell. What was Boot Powell of the Orioles given first name? Number 14, who was known as the Walking Man? It's not Barry Bonds. I'll give you a hint, Bill Brown saw him play. Number 15, which three Major League Baseball teams did Satchel Paige play for? Fall asleep. We're almost to the end. Number 16, how many home runs did Home Run Baker hit in his highest season? Number 17, the baseball polished on one side against the pitcher's uniform and rubbed with dirt or powder on the other side to obtain more curve when pitched. What was that pitch called?
Let's do the alert.
Okay, number 18, who won 8 games for Houston and had his number retired?
Wow.
Everyone ready?
We'll share the problems. So on the questions where you've got multiples, is it one per name or the whole question is just one point?
If you get 25 points, so if there's 5 answers, then you get 5 points. 25 points.
25. I
Okay.
don't have that many.
Okay, over the last 50 plus years, the repeat winner in the National League was the 75 and 76 Cincinnati Reds.
Dodgers didn't repeat themselves.
They did 78 and 79. No, they didn't repeat, but they came close. The Reds, he was there.
World Series
76.
champs.
Yeah.
I'm just ready. I'm telling you. 78 is the Yankees, 79 was Pirates.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
We're talking about nationally.
Okay, number 2 was the 62 Rookie of the Year and Gold Glove winner, and he played one more season. That was Ken Hubbs, who also he died in a plane crash in February of '64. And Bill and I were talking about who else died in the plane crash. Well, I knew Thurman Munson, and I wasn't sure about it.
There's another Yankee pitcher who was piloting his Corey.
Oh, Roy Halladay.
Roy Halladay.
Yeah,
Halladay did.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another guy. Remember he was piloting his own plane in New York, crashed into a building. Can't remember his name.
No. Okay, what is Dusty's first name? Johnny. Johnny B. Baker Jr.
Johnny Baker would not have won 2,000 games as a manager, but Dusty Baker.
It's got
Got the right name.
Okay, what team did he play for in his last season? Oakland A's in '86.
That's so many.
Yeah. And who did Larry strike out in his first major league start on his 18th birthday?
Really amazing, the guy, I can't read his list.
Okay, Larry, what was the answer to that one?
Jim Rayhart.
Yep.
Hard, oh my. Well, I had Ron Hunt.
He wasn't on that team. Okay, number 6. Bill Brown's first major league broadcasting play-by-play announcer job was with the 76 Reds. 76 Reds. And he was there through 83. I have it in my notes. I was listening to them all the time. Oh, you were? Oh, yeah, I was a big Reds fan. Oh. Yep. 16s, 17s, 8s. Okay, yeah. You would have interacted with Joe Nuxhall and all those guys, yeah. Okay, number 7, first catcher to hit 20 home runs in a season. It was Gabby Hartnett.
Yes.
He hit 24 home runs in 1925 at 236 in his career. He bet about his lifetime average was like 300 also.
He would consider to be a better catcher than Kevin Elmo.
Well, it's the first, the question is, first catcher in Major League to hit 20 home runs, so it can't be Campanella. Or it could be. What?
That's this.
I knew you would. Okay, did Ty Cobb ever bat below 300?
Yes, yeah, in 267.
No, he didn't. He batted 300 his whole career, except for when he was 18 years old, he batted 236. First year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. He batted 300 all the way through the end.
I still got it.
It
was just off about 25 years.
Remember, this is designed for you to win. So don't forget that. Yeah. Okay, number 9. What was the last year of 2 All-Star games?
70,
61, 63,
61.
62. They played 2 All-Star games from 59 through 62.
National League won all of us. And now the American League.
Were they
Sure.
like back to back, or they playing
No, they were separated. They're separated.
during the season?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, they took time off.
Money went to the players' pension,
Amazing, Chuck.
and the players asked for an extra game. That's when they weren't making millions, they were making thousands.
Okay, number 10,
2 a year.
yeah, it was, I enjoyed those All-Star games. That too. Yeah. Longtime pitcher in the 40s, 50s with the nickname Fire.
Virgil Trucks.
Oh, yes, Mr. Firemeister should have got that. Virgil Trucks.
How about him for the most hard luck season of all? I don't know which year it was. He went like 5 and 19. 2 of the ones were no hitters.
Right.
And I think the other 3 were shut up.
Then he got traded after that, and he won 20 games the next year.
Yeah.
For the other team, and I can't think of it. I think it was the A's or somebody weird like that. Let's see here. Okay, what major league team did Moonlight Rain play for? Yep, New York Giants. 1905. The Cy Young Award winners on the 2014 Detroit staff.
Shelby, Justin Verlander, David Price, Scherzer, and
Joe Nate.
Scherzer, and
Patrick Shelley played third base. And I get messed up on that.
Red Sox,
Porcello.
Yeah. Okay, Verlander, Scherzer, Porcello, David Price, and Robbie Ray.
Oh, man.
Really?
About that.
Who were the last 2?
Really? Robbie Ray and David Price. Wow.
Right was right.
David Price took it.
Yeah.
Probably right around that early.
I remember in
Verlander, Scherzer, Porcello, Price, and Ray.
Marcelo, I don't say.
Well, what is that? That
You only won 90 games.
Ray was in the bullpen.
Only 190.
I just looked it up, same record the Astros this year.
They won the Cy Young very much.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Number 13, what's Boog's first name?
God.
God. Herschel. Herschel McPow. I thought it was John too.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was. Who was known as the Walking Man?
Eddie Yost.
Exact. No, Eddie Yost.
I should have known.
Who got traded? He got drafted by the Angels in '61 when you got to see him play with the Civics. The Angels against the.
Yeah.
I loved it when he was a Tiger.
Oh, yeah.
Then he started hitting home runs. He had the Briggs Stadium.
Right.
15. Which three Major League Baseball teams did Central Page play for?
Cleveland, Browns, and Yankees.
Exactly.
Oh.
All right.
Cleveland, he was on the 48 World Series champion. Indians.
That was his first
Days, he was like 58 years old or something. And then 51 to 53 is on the Browns, and then 65 played the A's.
And the Braves brought him back, just so he could qualify for a pension. He didn't play, he was the coach.
Yeah, I
Yeah, for the A's.
Oh, yeah.
Where's he? He's a Browns.
I can't hear it. Wait.
He had a rocking series.
Yeah, he's 50 something.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay.
You go.
Well, I know he was old. I don't even really know how old he really was. Yeah, exactly. Number 16, how many home runs did Home Run Baker hit in his highest season?
12.
Zach? I figured a lot of people would get that. That was in 1913 with the Philadelphia A's. What's the 17, that definition they gave on the college?
Shine ball.
Shine ball. Shine ball.
Shine.
Number 18, 8 games for Houston, got number retired. Yeah. Figured most people get that too, since he's up there, when you go to the game,
Yeah.
names right up.
was that?
All right, I don't know.
How many?
Last month they asked us all retired numbers and they only got half of it.
Okay, how many got 25?
Oh, I like it.
Oh, wait, just the number 13 answer, until Pal, I thought it was John.
I don't think,
Well, I will look it up. But I looked it up and it was Herschel Mack. I thought it was John also.
well, let me look.
Yeah, look it up.
You looked it up,
John.
Unless the Pal says, I thought.
I thought that's what it was. But I was surprised.
What John Wesley talking? First. It's John Wesley Hardy, he's killed 42 men.
It's actually Harden.
John Wesley Booth Pell.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, John West.
Okay, we'll go with that as the answer.
Here we go.
I will look at my source.
I'm not thinking of Herschel Wall.
I was thinking one.
So we'll go with John on that.
All right.
Okay, so how many got 20?
Oh.
25 possible answers?
Yes.
Oh, who got 20?
Look at
Maxwell, you get 20?
22.
22.
Whoa.
Oh, man. Maxwell, you got 22?
I missed Robbie Ray. I didn't know what a grease ball was. And I missed the other Tigers question, Ty Cobb.
Okay.
So you only got 3 off, right?
I missed 3 and 2 of them were my favorite teams. So it shows you how good I am. Not very.
Well, getting 22 on this one, and Mike was supposed to win, but you beat him out.
Mike, I got 10.
See, Mike, Maxwell.
Thank you.
Yeah, but how many 22s? How's 22 Canadian travel?
I don't know. I used to know.
They really have
All right, wait a minute. John, who got, let's see who got second place. And who got 21? 20, 19, 18, 17? Wow. 16, 15,
Maxwell smoked us.
14, 13, 12.
12.
There we go.
Well, Maxwell.
He was watching Dirk's fans.
Yeah, Maxwell should be back.
Maxwell, I'm gonna have to, yeah, you have to mail you a gift.
Wow. All right. I'm gonna email you, Maxwell. I got something to mail you.
All right.
Okay. But congratulations, you get to write next month's trivia.
Wait a minute, Tal.
Thank you very much.
How many did you get, Tal?
Yeah,
He's on mute.
What'd you say, Maxwell? Mike interrupted me.
Shocking.
Ask Tal how many you got. Hey, Tal, how many? They want to know how many you got.
Score. I missed a couple.
Didn't say.
There. One on the Tiger Cy Youngs. And, trying to think what else I missed. Since I didn't have Shine Ball either. Trying to think what else. So I probably got about 20.
It's my bad.
That makes,
Well, for those in attendance, Mike, you got how many?
12, bro.
That's right.
Tony, you got 12?
Well, no, I didn't have it.
No, he
Okay.
had Herschel propel.
All right. So Maxwell and Tal are the winners. Maxwell, you gonna be able to write the contest for next month?
Sure, what's the date?
November 20th.
I should be able to.
Yeah, that's Thanksgiving week here in the United States, so it doesn't affect you.
No, it's nothing week in Canada.
All right, well, I'll have to send you something. Okay,
We want it in French though.
we want it in French. All right.
Don't say that.
She'll serve as a translator. All right, everyone. I have a copy of Sandy Koufax's book by Gene Levy.
Great book.
I was going to give it to a winner, but Maxwell is in a different country. So, Mike.
Sure. All right.
All right.
Throw it to him.
Yeah.
That's not one of the books now.
It's a great book, Mike.
Oh yeah. Great book.
Pull that out of Tal's box.
No. I got it when we first went over there. That's it.
French version.
There you go.
Already got it.
All right, but hey, Maxwell, I got something else for you.
All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
All right, everyone, November 20th, next month, we're still kind of working on who exactly is going to be the speaker, but I have a pretty good idea that it might be the president of the Dustin Baker chapter.
Where are they located? I have one more thing.
Sacramento.
This reminded me, I meant to tell you, in '64, I think that was the largest crowd they had at Boat 45 Stadium from the 4th of July when Koufax and Drysdale both pitched in the doubleheader. There were several guys there besides myself that went to that. I went to it.
Who played both ends of that?
Jimmy wins. I remember him being.
Mosquitoes, probably.
Huh?
Mosquitoes, probably.
Yeah, no, it was their day games. I sat in the aisle, behind first base dugout.
Mosquitoes went to
Day
Dayton.
It was July in Houston. 4th of July.
All right, everybody, we'll see you. Have a good month. Go Astros.
Thanks, Joe.
We got them right where we want them. All right. We'll see you November 20th. Thank you, Brandon.
I got the score.
Yeah.
That's sure.
Wow.
I'm not working for over 20 years.
Yeah, they thought we'd be.